Did Hugh Jackman taint the legacy of his box office super smash hit Logan by coming back to be an MCU shill? Hi, I'm Hassan. Welcome back to the show where you right there, your bad days are your best stories. I'm here to talk about Deadpool and Wolverine, which I saw today, and Logan, which I saw for the very first time yesterday. Logan's considered one of the greatest comic book movies of all time. It was Hugh Jackman's final run with the character Wolverine that he'd been playing for 15 years and across 11 movies at that point, and it was literally meant as his ultimate goodbye to the role. They knew they weren't going back to the well, so they went as hard as they possibly could. People have been singing its praises for almost a decade now, and I somehow have managed to never get a single spoiler for it. I bet you're hearing that and you're thinking, oh, Hassan, wait, you mean you've never seen Logan? Welcome to everybody in my whole life's criticisms of me. I grew up a massive X-Men fan. Before the MCU had kind of corrected the course of comic book movies, X-Men were churning out gold for the early 2000s, but potentially not the greatest movies ever, and I was in love with them. Specifically Wolverine, because I was a kid and marketing's great, and Wolverine claws! Wolverine claws! It's cool. I like the Wolverine claws. Once Logan came out and the reviews were in, I had this idea. What if I save this movie so that if anything horrible were to happen in my life, I had this as my rainy day flick? I know it's incredible. I know people love it, and it's Hugh Jackman's final goodbye. I'd always have more Hugh Jackman left in the tank. Well, it turns out Hugh is back. Hugh's playing Wolverine in Deadpool and Wolverine, so it's time that I go ahead and watch this movie. For the last 3 years, I've actually worked at a comic book YouTube channel called Comic Story, and with the wonderful Benny Potter, where I literally had to watch and review every single Marvel, DC superhero project that came out, and I got constant shit from Benny about not watching Logan. He talked about how much I'd love it. It's one of his favorite comic book movies, and he gave me endless shit over it. Well, Benny sadly passed away in a car accident at the beginning of the summer, and I never got to share my thoughts about the movie with him, so I'm going to use this video kind of to tell Benny what I think about the movie. The opening of Logan sets a tone that's very different from all the other Fox movies. This is rated R. This is a much older, much sadder, much more exhausted Wolverine than we've ever gotten before. Logan picks up with an old, grizzled, exhausted Hugh Jackman looking honestly as hot as he's ever looked, frankly. I mean, I don't know what to say. Something about old man Logan really just kind of, wow, that is a lot of man. Logan looks like he's had the worst time in his life, and it makes me want to give him the best time of his life, if you know what I mean. I'm a straight man, and I don't know why I'm saying this, but something about Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is just not necessarily every time, but specifically old man Logan. Oh, it's doing it for me. He is in bad shape. Man's leg is hardly working. He's clearly not regenerating. We get one of the most concussive fight scenes I've ever seen in a Fox movie, and it looked stupendous and immediately sets the tone. This is different than anything else that they've made. He's currently taking care of Charles Xavier. There's implied to have been some kind of calamity that befalled them 10 years ago that led to all the other X-Men dying. Charles is in a really bad state. We get to immediately see him have this really intense tremor that affects everybody around him, almost like Charles himself has become a weapon. Patrick Stewart is at his absolute best in this role. He finally got to just set free. He honestly reminds me a lot more of James McAvoy's Professor Xavier from the First Class movies, really riddled with this darkness and this angst, but also more character. In the Fox X-Men movies that Patrick Stewart was in, he's a lot more just like, I'm a British professor. Safety always comes to those who come to Hogwarts if they ask for help. He's really just kind of Dumbledoring his way around without having much personality. James McAvoy's Professor X has a ton of personality. He's a lot more intense. He's a lot angrier. He's a lot cooler. He's a lot sexier. And then this old man, Patrick Stewart, manages to bring that sex appeal right to the screen. I don't know why this is what I'm talking about. This is going to be a stream of consciousness review, and this is what my stream of consciousness told me. But he's at his best. They have this incredible buddy cop banter where Patrick Stewart is really ripping into Logan. Logan has fully fallen into alcoholism. He's fully fallen apart, and his only focus is to get enough money to get a boat so that him and Charles can go live in the water, and maybe so he can take an adamantium bullet and put it between his skull and end his suffering. Yikes. Super dark. I wanted to talk about the intro with you guys, but I don't really want to do a plot point by plot point summary because this movie's been out for 10 years. I'm sure all of you have seen it, but we'll touch some of the highlights. We get introduced to a young girl, X-23, and her supposed mother wants Logan to do something for her. Well, later reveal, mother's dead, not her mom at all. She is the daughter of Wolverine. Obviously grown in a test tube. Wolverine didn't get to shoot his old down unders, his Australian men right into the... He didn't get to shoot any adamantium up in anybody. What am I doing? This is a horrible way to talk about this incredibly dramatic, wonderful film. film. So X-23 needs Wolverine's help to get to North Dakota to try and cross the border to Canada to receive asylum somewhere. Mutants have apparently all gotten completely extinct, which goes against the statement that mutants were in fact the next evolution of mankind. Instead, they were just kind of a little side tangent. Hey, we're gonna be different for a little bit, but we'll all go back to normal, which is normal, regular, boring human beings. Charles obviously takes a lot of hurt to that, and for some reason, he can sense a new mutant being around, that new mutant being X-23. They have this incredible battle in their makeshift little home, and it ends with Charles, X-23, aka Laura, and Logan going off on the road to North Dakota. They stop in Oklahoma to do a little bit of gambling, but in between, we get a lot of really lovely scenes of Laura and Charles. Charles doesn't necessarily have his powers the way he used to, but he's still adept at communicating. I mean, he was the professor at a school for decades, and you get these wonderful, heartfelt scenes of them interacting and him taking care of them, and then also scenes of Logan kind of putting responsibility on this 11-year-old kid, like, hey, give Charles this medicine. It's really funny. It's very cute. Everything goes to shit in Oklahoma. They end up driving up further, and they stop at this farmhouse, where this entire time this farmhouse sequence is happening, I'm thinking, please, God, leave. Please leave this place. Please leave these wonderful people. This is going to end poorly. And just like that, it absolutely does, with Charles laying in bed, uttering what has to be one of the most haunting, it's probably the moment in the movie where I started crying, where Charles says that this was the most wonderful night he's had in a very long time, and that he doesn't deserve it. He says his apology as Logan has come into the room, and it's this beautiful moment that ends so abruptly because that's not Logan. That's X-24, the weird clone Wolverine, and he kills Charles. Heartbreak absolutely courses through my veins when I saw that scene. It broke me. An incredible fight takes place. Again, the choreography, the lighting, everything about this, the acting has been far and above anything Fox has ever put out. Ever. It's just beautiful, breathtaking, stunning across the board. Well, they fight. Charles is gone. Logan and X-23 hit the road again, and they bury Charles, and Logan tries to get out words, but he just can't. He's heartbroken at the loss of his friend, and yeah, guys, making a video while grieving your friend, and the storyline has a lot to do with friends dying, a little rough, so bear with me. Has this really heartbreaking moment because in grief, sometimes you just can't get all the words out. The story continues. They have a fight. X-23, who's been kind of silent throughout this film, finally talks, revealing that she can talk, and her and Logan argue, and then they take shifts. They get their way up to North Dakota, where it's revealed all the other experiments are there, and they're going to be crossing the border. Logan has continued to kind of be more and more familial to X-23 throughout this film, not necessarily having a father-daughter direct moment on his part, but you can tell he's very paternal with her. The bad guys come back one more time, and they have this massive brawl in the woods where the kids are trying to cross the border. Logan takes a huge dose of some kind of mutant steroid to fight like hell against all these government monsters, one of them being the guy who actually eliminated mutants from the world. The fight ends with Logan making one final sacrifice, the biggest sacrifice ever, his own life. Throughout this film, it's been shown that his regeneration is borderline gone. A lot of it is because they don't directly state it, but I think it's implied to be the adamantium in his system is rusting or decaying, and it's causing him a lot of pain. In the final fight, he is impaled, and he dies on a tree stump with X-23 holding him, saying goodbye, Daddy. It's a really beautiful moment, and they set up this wonderful grave for him with a cross on top made of sticks, and then right before the scene ends, X-23 tilts it over to make it an X. I always wondered, I knew the movie was going to be good, I knew the movie was going to be great because people sing its praises, and I waited 8 years to watch it, and it blew all my expectations. This was the perfect film. If Hugh Jackman was looking to say goodbye to the role, this is the way to do it. It was beautiful, it was sad, it was real, and it wasn't just Hugh Jackman's swan song, it was also Patrick Stewart's putting a phenomenal final performance to cap off his decade as Professor Xavier. I truly, truly love this film. That said, here's my non-spoiler review for the people who haven't gotten to see Deadpool and Wolverine yet. Oh my god, this movie is incredible. It's different. It's not the same kind of cinematic masterpiece Logan is, but it's fun. It's like the best roller coaster you've been on. I think that this was worthwhile for Hugh Jackman to come back. Now let's get into actual spoiler territory of why I like this movie so much. We pick up literally desecrating this grave that I saw be built just yesterday. For everybody else, this happened 8 years ago, and it was the norm, and this was the final nail in the coffin on Hugh Jackman. Deadpool pulls up, desecrates the grave, gets the adamantium skeleton of the Logan that sacrificed himself, and then fucking kills a bunch of TVA agents with it. This movie was funny, it was entertaining, and most of all, it was much less of a Deadpool or a Wolverine film. It was a love letter to the Fox films. You got Chris Evans coming back as the amazing Johnny Storm, you had Elektra from the Daredevil movies, you had fucking Blade. Wesley Snipes was in it for no reason, and you had the wonderful X-23 making a return, and it kind of blows my mind a little bit. She was 12 years old when she played X-23 in Logan. That was also the year I graduated high school, old 2017. And now she's 19 and I'm 25 and time fucking flies. And that made me really, really exhausted and felt super old. But I really like this movie. It is a cameo fest. It is super gratuitous. It's super meta. It's constantly winking at the camera and being silly, but it's great. And I think that there's no better way to say goodbye to the Fox movies than having this kind of film. It's jam-packed with a lot of jokes that don't hit and a lot of jokes that hit really fucking hard. One of my favorite cameos and moments of this entire film is having Channing Tatum play Gambit. For those of you who don't know, a Gambit movie was basically in production hell for like a decade. He really wanted to play this character. He was literally cast this character and he never got to be it. Well, now we have Gambit doing a fucking the worst, most hilarious Louisiana accent as Gambit does in everything that he's in, being hysterical, inaudible. You get all these meta inside jokes about how he basically never had a movie. I glossed on this before, but Chris Evans comes back to the MCU for the very first time since his heart-wrenching end in Endgame, and he's fucking amazing. They do a Captain America cop-out. They address the fact that it's played by the same actor. We get the wonderful Johnny Storm energy, which is easily the best part of those old Fantastic Four movies. The villain of the movie is
Cassandra
Nova, who's Charles Xavier's sister in the comics, is a whole other thing. Really cool to see this character put to film, along with Pyro from X-Men 3, and then fucking Juggernaut from X-Men 3, and so many other cameos that I couldn't list. Oh my god, actually there is a cameo I want to list. Fuck you, the Snyderverse. Fuck you, Zack Snyder. Fuck you, all of that shit, because oh my god, Henry Cavil is back in a superhero movie in a one-scene cameo as Wolverine, and it's fucking hilarious and wonderful and amazing, and he's like, we'll treat you better than that studio ever would, and it's just awesome. This isn't like the most adept review ever where I'm getting into the nuances of the storytelling, because this movie is just a popcorn flick. It's a roller coaster. It's the most fun I've had on a ride in some time. It's just funny, it's entertaining, it's lighthearted. When it needs to get heavy, it gets heavy, but overall, it's a fantastic summer flick. And to the question, should Hugh Jackman have come back? I think he should have. He did this gut-wrenching cinematic performance in Logan. He gave this dark, gritty take on this character, pushing to the ends of the earth, committing to the ultimate sacrifice. So he deserves to come back and play a bona fide comic book character clad in his iconic yellow costume for the very first time, eventually gets the sleeveless yellow suit, looking jacked as all hell. I know I was real attracted to old man Logan, but oh my god, there's a scene in this movie where Deadpool and Wolverine are stopping some reactor, and then his shirt rips off, and you get Hugh Jackman's glistening abs. The man is getting old. We're not getting a lot more Hugh Jackman ab scenes in the future, but oh my god, he looked incredible. It's awesome that he gets to come back and stretch a whole different acting muscle being in this zanier, more fun flick. So I personally think this was incredible. I know a lot of people on Twitter have already started going off about how this is shitting in the face of Logan, and I think that you're taking yourself too seriously if you think that. This is just a fun movie. This is a popcorn flick. This is entertaining. This is wonderful. This is amazing. I think everybody should go watch Deadpool and Wolverine, especially if you've seen any Fox movies before. This is a love letter. Even the end credits are actually blooper reels from the production of all the Fox movies. You get Daredevil clips, you get Fantastic Four clips, you get all of the X-Men movies, including the First Class movies. It was incredible. My only criticism is I could have taken a James McAvoy cameo in the movie itself. We didn't get that. James is a little bit more expensive than he used to be, but I love my Chuck Xavier with the long, beautiful hair. And that's kind of it for this review / video. I know, very different than what you're usually expect out of a review that's more comprehensive, but I don't have a comprehensive conversation. This movie was fun. Before I go, I want to take a second to talk about my friend Benny Potter, the comic historian. I actually plan to do a whole separate video on this channel where I just talk about him, but honestly, even this section of this video has been really hard for me. Benny Potter was the most incredible man I've ever known. I grew up a massive fan of his, and I felt so lucky to then go on to become a great friend of his. We traveled the country together. We ate great food. We did a live stream every Monday and every Thursday for the last 3 years, and in that time, he became one of my best friends in the whole world, and he feels like a comic book character because of how incredible he was to the people in his life. He took care of everyone in a way that you could not even wrap your mind around, that a person could live so altruistically and so compassionately just for others. He was funny and loud and ridiculous and didn't know how to admit when he was wrong, but god damn it was he the best guy ever. We argued literally every Monday on stream about some bullshit. The last thing we argued about was My Hero released the first chapter of its epilogue, and I was like, the manga's not over until the end of the epilogue, and he's like, yeah, it's over, and we screamed at each other about it, and I would give just about anything to go scream at him again and to have him scream at me and to have that, because he's gone too soon. He had just turned 40, and a lot of people refer to him as an older YouTuber who was, you know, he had his prime in the past, but Benny was just getting fucking started. He had so many projects in the works, and he was so excited about each and every one of them. The reason you're seeing me on this channel more all of a sudden, I'm uploading again, is because Benny literally made a channel called Benny Has a Problem, and half the reason he made the channel was so that he could motivate me to make more commentary videos, because he knew I was having fun doing it. That's how incredible of a man he was, and that's like one small thing, and I don't even know. I have a billion Benny Potter stories, and it never stops becoming real that he's gone, because he just seems like a guy that would live forever. He would have loved Deadpool and Wolverine, or he would have hated it. I don't actually know. He could have been like, that was too many cameos. Or he could have been like, oh, that was a great love letter, because he'd flip-flop on what his opinions were. But god damn it, we would have had fun. We were supposed to be in Comic-Con together this week. It was going to be my first San Diego Comic-Con. We were really excited about it. And I'm kind of losing the thread here, but Benny was this incredible, wonderful, important guy. And I want to do what I can to live up to that legacy. And that legacy was have fun and do what the fuck you want to do with your life, because life is too short. He wanted me to make the best videos and take vacations and have fun and not take myself too seriously. And that's what I'm going to do. And that's what this channel is. And I'm sorry, this is really rambly. Usually I like to think of myself as a pretty eloquent person, and I'm able to say the right thing at the right time. But when it comes to grief, I've honestly struggled a lot. Benny was so wonderful. This is to you, Ben. This is directly to you. You were fucking right, dipshit. I loved Logan. It was awesome. I shouldn't have waited for it. I'll definitely watch The Batman later this weekend. That's another rainy day movie of mine. You were right to give me shit. It was awesome, and I love you, man. You're one of the best friends I've ever had. You're the greatest mentor I've ever had, and god damn it, you were a badass to everybody. So, before I start crying like a silly little person, guys, this is a channel. Your bad days are your best stories. If you want to see me take several edibles and watch Madam Web, check this video out. If you want to see my Cody Co coverage and all the drama happening there, go take a look at that. I'm Hassan. This is Bad Days. I'll see you guys next time.